Hello everyone, and I hope you're all doing very well. So I have the distinct pleasure today of reviewing or doing a buyer's guide for the UH-1H Huey in DCS World. We're going to use our usual review structure to review this so that we can compare it against other modules in DCS. 1. Capability. We're going to look at the weapons, the sensors and the navigation. 2. The visual effects. How good are the visual effects inside the cockpit and how good are they outside? We're going to rate that 1 to 5, 5 being good, 1 being bad. And this score allows us to compare it roughly empirically against other modules in DCS World. To see the other modules that we've reviewed, please look in the video description. You will see a link to a score sheet in there where I show all of the scores for the different aircraft that you can compare, and you can show the ratings given by the other GR members as well as just mine. 3. Sound effects inside the cockpit and outside the cockpit. How good are the sound effects? 1 to 5. 4. Interactivity and detail. Again, rated 1 to 5. How interactive is the cockpit? How many buttons are modelled? How can you press them? How much detail is in the cockpit? How much detail is in the systems behind the controls of the aircraft? 5. Flight model. Not necessarily how accurate it is to the Huey. We do expect it to be accurate as a default position, but we're more interested in how immersive is the flight model. How does it make us feel like we're flying a real UH-1H and not, a video game? And are there any obvious errors that take away your immersion? 6. Difficulty, where for instance 1 would be an A10A and 5 would be an A10C. How difficult is the module to pick up and learn and be effective with it? 1 and 5 are neither good nor bad, but we just want to let you know. 7. The history of the module. Since it's been released, how has it aged? How many problems with it has it had? Obviously some aircraft have been fairly bugged, some aircraft have been completely bug free, and we think you should know that. Okay, welcome to the UH-1H cockpit. First we're going to look at the aircraft's capability. Now before we do that, it's important that when I do these reviews for you guys that I am completely unbiased. Therefore I should warn you that in this aircraft, this out of all the helicopters in DCS is my favourite. Just as the F5 is my favourite aeroplane, this is my favourite helicopter, and the reasons why it's my favourite is exactly the same as the F5. It's simple to use. Although its capabilities is relatively limited, it's simple and easy to remember how to use. You can come back after 6 months and you can pretty much remember how to fly it. As well as that, the flight model is excellent. It's second to none. It's really fun to fly, really rewarding, and feels really immersive. And third is just the most fun and rewarding I find. So with that in mind, let's get on to the weapons, and it is fairly limited. It is a Huey at the end of the day. So on pylons 3 and 4, positions 3 and 4, these are side gunners, left and right. We can have a human firing a minigun, or a human firing an M60, and the other side a human with a minigun or a human with an M60, and that can be AI driven or human driven. This is not a multi-crew helicopter. This is only a single human that can drive it, but I can play the pilot, the co-pilot, or either of the gunners, as we'll have a look at in a bit. Pylons 2 and 5 on the pylon carriers. We've got rockets, and we've got a M261 pod with 19 2.75-inch rockets of high explosive warhead or Willy Pete white phosphorus, or a smaller XM158 with 7 2.75-inch rockets of high explosive Willy Pete, parachute illumination, practice smoke, practice and high explosive. Practice smoke is actually really useful. In fact, illumination is useful as well. But practice smoke is really good for highlighting targets for the F5 to come in and wild weasel or whatnot. Great combination. Same on pylon 5, and on pylon 1 we get a gimbaled, swiveled, remote controlled minigun. Bucket loads of ammo. I'm not sure how many thousands of rounds, but it's a lot of ammo. Okay, so let's talk about the deployment of the weapons. So the rockets are hard fixed to the mounts here, and we would fire them or aim them. The pilot would be firing them. I'd use my XM60 sight here, and I could turn it on, and I could either just use the reticle there to find a target and fire, or I could use the XM reflex sight properly and I could determine the target's range. I don't have a radar in this, but I could determine the target's range using the millidot theory. We've got a video on this, and we'd put our appropriate, once we've got the target's size and range, we would use the mils of depression here to set our lead depression up using this table here, and that's how we'd fire at targets a decent distance away. Or like I said, we can just hip shoot using it neutralized. With regards to the miniguns on these outer mounts here, we can use them in a static aim bore-sighted position where we could just hip shoot like that, or we could use the XM60 sight, as we said again, with the depression and the ranging and the table. Or we could become the co-pilot, as we'll do in a bit, and use this reflex sight here to aim it. They are on gimbal mounts and they can swivel left and right up to about 45 degrees, I think. Or we can have this guy here, we can give him controls to fire the miniguns if we want. We can tell him to hold as it's got there, or we can tell him to hold return fire, or we can tell him to free fire, and then he will fire and aim the gimbal mounted miniguns of his own accord. And the rear guys, pylons 3 and 4 here, we can tell them again to be hold or free fire AI or return fire AI, or we can become one of them at a time and fire those guns ourselves. We'll go through all of those options in a bit. As well as that weaponry, we have the ability to sling load up to a moderate weight of cargo, whatever that cargo is. So you may be sling loading ammo or fuel or whatever types of supplies in your mission. It works perfectly in single player. It's still not working perfectly in multiplayer yet, but single player it's fine. It's pretty easy to do in the Huey. I've got videos on that as well. I've basically got videos on everything, but we also have a night flight ability. So we have helmet mounted night displays like this. We can change the intensity up and down to suit the environment. So we've got full nighttime possibility. With a small modification to the game, we have CTLD ability, which gives us the ability to lift things like small SAM sites, like troops into battle, and we do that quite a lot in the Reapers. We can do that with all the choppers, to be honest, but we can do that with this as well. So that's as far as we go for capability, although that is a very limited capability. Again, don't underestimate how good and how fun this module can be. And capability as well, I should say that we have comprehensive communication suite, in that we have a UHF radio, we have a VHF radio, we have an FM radio, so we can work in these different frequency ranges to talk to whatever elements we need to talk to, and all of those radios tested and they all work fine. In regards to navigation, we've got no kind of tactical navigation, we've got no Doppler, we've got no INS, we've got no TACAN type navigation. What we do have is 3 kind of pretty cool old school radio based navigations. Now, it's a long time since I studied this, so my apologies that I will be a bit rusty, but we do have an ADF, an automatic direction finding navigation that allows us to home into NDBs, you know, radio beacons at the end of the runways. We also have a very strange but quite cool type of ILS system that actually allows to land on a runway in any weather, like a plane does basically. It's pretty cool. I've got a video on that as well that you can check out. And a third type of navigation is FM kind of triangulation, where we could home in to, we could tune in on the FM radio here to a distress call. FM is used by ground units, like, you know, one of these tanks that could be out in the field and needed help. You could send out FM signals and DCS, so I could track it on here. And I could use my little gauge down here to get onto his radio signal and navigate to him, and it works pretty much perfectly. I've tried it in deep fog and I could find tanks and stuff out there, so all that stuff, although it's not great tactical navigation, it's not waypoint based like for instance a KA-50 or the Gazelle's Nadir system, or even the Doppler system on the Mi-8, you've still got some functionality there. Next we're going to look at the visual effects. We're going to do inside and then we're going to do outside. Everyone has a different idea of what good visual effects are, so the best thing I can do is basically look around this cockpit. So I'll slowly look around the whole cockpit. It'll take about 5 minutes to do it, and you guys can decide for yourself. From my point of view, this module came out I think in 2013, so it's getting fairly old now, and it's starting to show its age. You can see the textures just not up to the standard of the Hornet and the F-14 and stuff like that. It's not too bad. In general flight you never really notice it, but for those guys who really want the top graphics, it's not quite there anymore, is it? Roof starting to look a bit tacky. Excellent visibility in this aircraft. Okay, let's go and have a look outside. One thing I forgot to mention in the capabilities is that we have flare launcher at the back there. We have countermeasure flares. That's what those boxes are on the tail. So I have to give it a rating at the end of that. I always hate giving it a rating, it's so hard to do. And these ratings may change, remember, please refer to the master document for up-to-date ratings. But I'm going to say inside it's down to 2.5, it's just getting a little dated now. And I'd say outside it's still looking pretty sharp, unless you really zoomed in on the textures, it still looks absolutely fine. So I'm going to put it as a 4 outside. So it gives us a grand total of graphics of, what, 3.25. Next we're going to do the sounds. I'm shouting because I've turned the sounds up, so it's going to be quite loud. The sound engine is really good in this. I'm not sure I can explain it in words, so I'm just going to take off and show you. But when I put the rotors under different pressures, you can hear the reaction in sound, and that allows me to tell what kind of stresses I'm putting on the rotor. You hear that? Also, when I stress the engine, stress the RPM. Try and do that in a second. Hear that when I whack the collective up? Stress it out again. I may blow the engine up, but when I free the collective up, you can hear it. Listen to that. Now, I'm not a helicopter guy. I don't really know technical terms for what I'm doing. The important thing is the sound engine is telling me the feedback that I need to know. Stress let's whack the collective up again. Hear the engine struggling? And back to normal. probably shear the rotors off in a minute, but... Pretty cool, huh? I'll do some flybys so you can hear it outside. So I hope you'd agree with me that inside and outside it's just pretty top notch, to be honest. All the warning sounds, everything's in there. So I'm going to rate it a solid 4 out of 5, you know, in terms of sound engine. I don't think it's up there with like a Hornet or something. I mean, it's hard to compare them, but I'm going to rate it a solid 4 out of 5. So we're back at the cockpit now, and we're looking at interactivity. That is how I can interact with the aircraft through the cockpit controls here, and the details of the systems, etc. behind them. And it's absolutely top notch. I haven't driven this for a while, but from what I remember, every single button and knob in here does things. And I have to be a little bit careful what I press because I'm going to blow myself up. But to find something that doesn't work as it's supposed to, even the IFF panel here, which isn't really modelled per se in DCS, you know, everything's clickable. But there's something that, wow, it's probably the first time I found something in here that doesn't work. Whatever that says, cut cable, which must be for the sling loading, I imagine. Ah, that doesn't do anything either. Defrost on or off. We don't have defrosting, do we? That's why. I'm not going to touch that because that will kill the engine. In fact, let's try it. Back on. There's something else that doesn't work. Internal auxiliary fuel. I really wasn't expecting to find anything that didn't work, I'll be honest with you. Otherwise, everything's here. Everything here is interactive, I remember, and adjustable as it needs to be. Radio altimeter. Ah, that isn't there. Whatever that is. Oh, that's interrogation mode 4 for IFF. Now, I do... Right, we're going to turn that off, obviously. I do appreciate it in these modules when even if it doesn't work, you know, if it's not modelled, I appreciate that I can still flick the button. I still do want to be able to click the button, even if it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So that's just a little thing there to be aware. We've got the... in fact, we'll go through roughly what the dials mean in a minute, because I don't think it's going to be a massively long video. I think we've got time to do that. Everything here on the collective, lights and whatnot. So about 98% of controls appear to be... So about 98% of the controls seem to be modelled. I have forgot to look up here. Everything here works. Even the circuit breakers. Impressible. Now, I was saying earlier I like this aircraft because it's simple. And looking at that there... and that there... it probably doesn't look that simple to you guys, but I can assure you it is. At the end of the day, I can remember how to fly this easily with no problems, and I'm basically, as you know, a shaved monkey with a mohawk. So if I can do it, anyone can do it. The vast majority of stuff that's on here, you'll just never need to use, even to get pretty much the best out of the aircraft for tactical uses. So we'll go over everything just very quickly. Weapons selector here, countermeasure stuff here. It says that we do have chaff here. I don't think in the DCS version we have chaff. I think we only have flares here. Dispense our flares. Got our ADF radio panel here. Got our FM radio here. Engine stuff here. Got our caution panel here. Mixed flight control here. IFF here. We've got our radio selectors here. And intercom. UHF radio here. Got a VHF radio here. I forget which one this is. I think it's radio for one of the types of navigation from memory. Been a while since I studied this. We got our cyclic here. We've got our collective here. We've also got the repeated over there for the co-pilot. We've got our pilot flight instruments here. Strip compass here. We've got shared engine and rotor RPM, torque here, a gas producer and exhaust temperatures, really important these gauges, you watch them all the time. A radio out shared here. Our shared engine and maintenance gauges here, pressures and whatnot. And we've got the co-pilot's flight instruments here. And we've got the lighting panel here. Sorry, other side, lighting panel here. More lighting there actually, dome lights, exterior lights, miscellaneous, got wipers and whatnot. Cabin air, what it's worth. Ah, that aft outlet doesn't work, look. Nav lights, more lights. Power here. AC power here. Circuit breakers here. You got your flexi reflex sight here and your XM60 there. Back to pilot. So to give it a rating, the detail behind the systems, as you'll know, is very good in the Huey. If we wanted to give it a rating, I'd say all the radios and everything work perfectly as well. If we want to give it a rating, I'm going to have to give it a 4 out of 5. I can't give it a 5 simply because there's some missing controls in there that I would like to see clickable, and one up on the roof. So 4 out of 5 seems fine. Let me just turn these wipers off. So next we've got the flight model, and that's the best thing about the Huey, in my opinion. She just flies so beautifully. You can see my cyclic there, you can see my collective there, you can see my rudder there. I'm not a good helicopter pilot, as you all know. I'm definitely not a good helicopter pilot, but because of the immense feedback that this flight model gives me, even an idiot like me, I can, you know, and I'm not perfect, but I could probably land it on the wing of that aeroplane or something like that. It's a really good model. I can feel the weight of the aircraft very much, and that's a big thing in the Huey. It's not a particularly powerful chopper, so you have to be really careful with weight. Again, I've got videos on that. Careful not to overload it and whatnot, but the important thing that I'm saying is that you can really feel that and take action to counteract weight and whatnot. Whoops, almost put it down. And you can feel the momentum, you can feel its inertia. Oh look, I've damaged the plane. That's quite cool, right? Look at that. Oh dear, that's not going to end well. Best pretend that didn't happen. Spin it round. I can feel what she wants to do. I can feel what she doesn't want to do. And I can take action to avoid damaging the aircraft. Now, regards to the flight model as well, there's a lot in there. We've got mask bumping, as you've seen. I've done a video on that. Regards to the engine, it's fully modelled in terms of heat saturation and whatnot, heat damage to the engine. So it's taken me a fair while to learn how to fly by my instruments down here to make sure I don't damage the engine. Once you know it, though, it all becomes second nature. And you can avoid a lot of frustration that way. She is manoeuvrable. It's not particularly heavy, it's not particularly light aircraft. Regards VRS and whatnot, vortex ring state, it's modelled. It's not too badly affected by it, as for instance the Mi-8 is, but it is something you have to learn to avoid. So you do really have to learn the dynamics of a helicopter to be able to fly a Huey properly. She's not particularly fast. She'll go maybe 100 knots, maybe 110 with a little bit of help. It doesn't really matter. The flight model feels so good, you'll never actually care about going slow. Interaction with the ground, spot on. You can kind of slide it along on the skids. Look, watch this. Sliding, I'm sliding now. Let's see if I can... See what I mean? Up. Walk it about. She's ever so forgiving. She's ever so forgiving. I mean, no helicopters are easy to pick up and learn, but... You couldn't do this in the Mi-8. Well, I couldn't do this in the Mi-8. Little dances and whatnot. With regards to the dynamics of the flight model, I think it's excellent, and that's the reason why I've said it's my favourite, really. You just can't fake that kind of stuff. You just know when you've got a really good flight model on your hands. We better now put some guns. You guys, of course, you all want me to see me firing the guns and stuff, so let's go and get that done. We've got a full complement now. We've got co-pilot. It's going to be in charge of our miniguns here. We've got our boys in the back. One's got an M60, one's got a minigun. So I'll show you literally how easy it is to set up and fire a gun, where I can remember how to use this. I go pow, pow, whoops. I go to armed there, I go to select minigun. That's it. It's done. I take my reflex sight down. Pull the trigger. Brr, brr, brr. Want to select some rockets. Select rockets. How many rockets want to fire? 1. Go. 1 from each pod. These have to be fired by the pilot and aimed by bullseye, obviously. Takes some. Does take a bit of practice. Boom, get some. That's that. If I want to fire the front guns here via the this guy with human control, I can do that. So just get myself in a little hover. Go, switch over to this guy here. Remember how to get my reflex sight out. Aim it like this. Get some. Oops, still got the thingy selected. Miniguns, please. Get some. Get some. Get some. Where are you going? Where are you going, sir? Just tell me this isn't just stupidly fun, right? Get some. Get some. You want some? Get some. Get some. Got a good gimbal limit on this. Great fun. Look at that. Tell me that's not just friggin' awesome. We'll do that in missions. Let's go and get Jenkins. Get some. Get some. Get some. Go and get Benedict. Come on, Benedict. Get some. Want some? Get some. It's a one-man Arnold Schwarzenegger show. Get some. You want some onlookers? Get some. Get some. Yeah, get some. Get van. You want some van? Oh look, I've shot myself up somehow. That's funny. What parking lot? Okay. Oh, I've lost control. I think I've got 2 damage. That's annoying. Come on. Only one thing I can do in that case. Get some. I knew this would turn into a stupid video. What's the matter with me? You can't help it. It's just too fun. Literally too good. Tell me you don't want to go and spend $50 now, whatever it costs. So the flight model, because you can just do so much. You can do any of that stuff in the middle of a mission. Flying the plane feels, basically, you know, it's one of the few in there that just feels perfect to me. It's got all the right amount of everything in there. Doesn't have too much VRS, you know, it's just great. I'm going to have to give the flight model a 5 out of 5. It's just how it is, I'm afraid. Next is difficulty. There's actually quite a difficult thing for me to tell you. Now, with this, we've got direct control. We've got no autopilots, we've got no real stability systems. It's just direct control of those rotors. And because of that, as soon as you jump into a Huey for the first time, you will just crash. You will crash repeatedly. Now that's not really the module's fault, it's because you just don't know how to fly a helicopter. And once you've learned how to fly a helicopter, how everything works, it actually becomes easy. I mean look, this is a completely smashed up chopper I've got, half the systems probably aren't working now. And I can probably go and put this, land this on top of someone's house. And like I keep saying, I'm not a good helicopter pilot, right? It's, you know, I don't get time to practice in them and whatnot. And if I can do it, really, once you've learned how to do it, anyone can. Now, regards to the systems, there's just not that much there. Once you know how to... Whoops. Multitasking. Once you know how to fly... Oh dear. Not again. Yeah, this keeps happening. Once you know how to watch the gauges and stuff, everything just becomes easy as second nature. And the systems behind it, you know, if we compare it to a KF50, which has got ABRIS, it's got PVI, it's so much learning you got to do. You really don't even have to touch the manual in this. You can learn just by clicking. Everything's so easy to learn, just like the F5. Exactly the reason why I like. Oh, I do apologise, Mohammed. And so for difficulty, I'm going to give it a 2.5. Once you've learned how to actually keep it in the air and keep it from overheating, everything from then on is easy. The systems are super easy to learn. It's super fun. Next we have to talk about history. So it's what, 2013 I think it was released, at 6 or 7 years old. And to be honest, I've not known a single problem with it. If anyone else is known, I mean, I've only been around for what, 3.5, maybe 4 years. And only been into high fidelity models for about 2.5 years. It may just be that I missed the problem, so you guys let me know please. I need you guys to let me know. But personally, I've flown the Huey since I've started high fidelity models, and I've never known a bug or a problem with it. Literally not a single thing. So as far as I'm aware, it's absolutely spot on. One little thing is, with all the choppers, cargo sling loading doesn't work properly in multiplayer. We tried it in our missions, and the loads, they just don't sling properly. They just literally flip around and defy physics. But in single player, it's fine. That's literally the only thing I can think of saying against it, basically. So pretty much spotless history that I'm aware of. That is the review done. That's pretty much everything I can think of mention. I insist you go out and buy it because it's just freaking awesome, and have the fun that I have and the other boys have, and can be as effective as you can. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you later.